Hey mages, welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to give you three really good, really quite powerful budget meta decks. Now, if you've seen this kind of series before, you know I always say, like, you look at some of the top meta rare decks and they do have 30, 40, some have 50 rares in those decks. And especially when a new set comes out, it's hard to, you know, what you want to put in, what to craft, everything like that. So I like to, at the start, put out previous video that just went out live about 3 or 4 days ago, which was 0 rare decks. And today these have minimal rare decks, but these are, you know, quite powerful and get really good percentage wins, anything from 60% plus according to the stats. And they have incorporated some of the new cards from March of the Machine. So there's going to be one deck that's a very popular deck that gets a few new really cool additions. And then there's 2 more decks as well that I think you like. So 11 rares we're going to look at first. And then we've got an 8 rare deck and then a 6 rare deck. So very, very budget, especially for a meta deck. So without further ado, let's take a look at the first deck. First deck we're looking at has 11 rares. And it is a meta deck. It is a Rakdos Sac deck based around some really cool cards like Oni, Cult, Anvil. You might have seen Anvil decks before. They're very good. We get a couple of new additions to this deck, and it's a deck that, you know, is very hard to play against because there's always creatures to be sacked. There's always creatures on the board to block and then sack in response. It's just a very, very awkward deck to play against. This is whenever one or more artifacts you control leave the battlefield during your turn, you get to create a 1/1 colorless creature, which is really good. And then you can tap it, sack an artifact, deals 1 damage to each opponent, and you gain 1 life. So you're looking for that drain effect. It does have some really good other cards in there that do drain effects as well. For an Executioner Thane, this one was from New Phyrexia. Whenever one or more creatures you control die, we drain opponent for 2 life and then we gain 2 life back. So we do have life gain as well to come back in the game for us. The deck also runs a single Sheoldred the Apocalypse. This card was one of the most powerful in Standard. I would probably try to sneak another one in there. I don't think it would do the deck, you know, it wouldn't do it any worse. Could only just make it better for me. What you'd probably drop for that for me would probably be one of the Reckoner's Bargains, just because this is just power personified. When we draw a card, gain 2 life. When an opponent does, they do lose 2 life. Really hard against the card drawing decks. Another one that likes to drain as well is Ob Nicholas. We have a full 3 of these in there. We can sack a creature. We're making those lots of little 1/1 artifact token decks, and we've got other creatures in there that you'll see in a minute that can be sacked quite easily once they've done what they need to do. +1, each opponent loses 2 life unless they discard a card. If we control a demon or devil, you gain 2 life. Now we can play the casualty, sack one of those little creature tokens potentially, and get 2 Ob Nicholas on there, and that's when the shenanigans of this deck start to control. And they've got to get rid of 2 potential planeswalkers. We put a little devil on there, and then we just start draining even more. And even when the devil dies itself, it does 1 damage to each, 1 damage to any target as well. So, talking about what to sack. Voldaren Epicure, nice 1-drop will come in, do 1 damage, create a blood token. A perfect fodder for this deck just to sack. For 1 mana, doing a bit of damage and getting a blood token, it does a lot for that as well. Also in the deck, when we're talking about creatures and sack abilities, Bloodtithe Harvester enters, makes a blood token. We can sack it, deal damage, -X, double the amount of blood tokens as well. One of the best 2-drops in the game for an uncommon, gets played in so many different decks, Grixis, just Rakdos, other Rakdos types of deck. It's just an all-star 3/2 stats above the 2 as well, which is just really good. And again, making a blood token so we can draw, and we have to discard first with that. A couple of Braids arisen in there, works on the sack theme with this type of deck, 3/3 for 3, just the 2 of these in there. Beginning of your end state, you may sack an artifact, creature, enchantment, or plant or planeswalker. If you do, opponent may sacrifice the same that shares a card type, but if they don't, we drain. They lose 2 life and we get to draw a card. So we do put that into our opponent's hands, like, what do you want to do kind of effect. Get drained or we get more cards. So let's have a look at another new card from the new set, which is Corrupted Conviction, a perfect way to draw cards for us, sacking a creature, and then we get to draw 2 for just 1 single mana. Also, we have Mishra's Research Desk. This is from Brothers War. This is now seeing a lot of play because this sort of deck, 1 mana comes in, then you pay 1, sack it, exile the top 2 cards of your library, choose 1, and to end a turn you may play it, and then it has Unearth, which means we will be able to do it again, and just works perfectly in this type of sack deck as well. We also have Furnace Reigns from the new March of the Machines. Gain control of target creature to end of turn, untap it, and to end of turn it gains haste. When it deals combat damage to a player or battle, create a treasure token. So potentially we get treasure, more stuff to sack as well with Oni, which is good as well. And then we maybe even be able to take a big creature, then sack it in response with our card draw like Corrupted Conviction. And we also have the Rexner's Bargain, so we can actually sack our opponent's own creature after we've done the attack, got the treasure and done what we want with it. It's a really cool interaction, this deck. Eaten Alive, 1 mana sorcery, but it exiles a creature or planeswalker, but you have to have to sack a creature. And, you know, I sound like a broken record here, but we've got plenty to sack. We're making tokens, creatures that can be sacked as well, and everything like that. The Ob Nicholas will make the devils that we can sack and then do damage. It is a really good synergistic deck, and for just 11 rares, it only runs 2 Haunted Ridge in there. The land base, 1 Attacking Numa, which is one of the rares as well, which is a good way to mill and then potentially get your Sheoldred or your Ob Nicholas back as well. The land base, this has been working with the stats, but the land base can definitely be upped. You know, you can add a couple more Haunted Ridge if you want to upgrade this deck a little bit further with the lands. And then you also have the other rare land, which I'm just going to go and find. Where is it? Where are you, Red or Black? Haunted Ridge, you've got Sulphurous Springs that you could obviously add into the deck as well, and just change them either for Bloodfield or the Tramway Station. But obviously that does draw a card, so you could maybe take some basics out, but that would be a way to upgrade the land base if you did. But with 11 rares, you've got a deck here up and running, ready to play. Get rid of the sack, annoy your opponent, and just drain and game with this one. It's super, super fun. Next deck I've got for you has just 8 rares, and it is an Izzet deck. A really cool Izzet meta deck. And the rares in this deck, interestingly, are the lands. The full, you know, you could go 0 rare with this if you wanted. Having Shivan Reef and Stormcarved Coast in there just makes the deck stronger rather than basics. They tap for both manas, and it's going to make the deck a lot more consistent. But if you did want to make this 0 rare, you really could by changing those lands, but you know, you won't get the same consistency or stats that this deck has been chucking up. So looking at the new additions that we're going to be putting into this deck from the new said March of the Machines is Kenra Spellspear, 2/2 for 2, Trample Prowess, brilliant. Pay 3 Phyrexian mana blue, transform it, it goes into a 3/3 Trample War 2 Prowess. You get double prowess. So an absolute stomper is Kenra, and this is for me one of the best uncommons that came from that set. Also, the addition of Stoke the Flames is back in standard. Strong card. Convoke. We'll be making tokens here. We've got Third Path Iconoclast that can just chuck out soldiers and help with the Convoke cost for Stoke the Flames. Even so, it still has to go in the deck for 4 mana. 4 damage to any target is just too strong. Where you mix into the fact, you know, burn spells like Lightning Strike for 3 damage. Play with fire as well. We have a lot of burn in this Izzet deck, without a doubt. Other creatures in the deck, we've got a couple of Delver because we're playing so many spells. We've also got Monastery Swiftspear with the prowess theme of this deck as well, that can just get really big and get the attacks down. And talking of making things bigger, Balmor Batmage Captain gives the Anthem effect. Gives all our creatures +1/0 and trample, which is really important with the amount of little tokens and everything like that out there. You want to be trampling over with our creatures, and this will give them +1/+0 each time we cast an instant or sorcery card. So, you know, instance, obviously on attack phase, you might be able to do that, and then just trample over. Other spells in the deck, we go to the card draw. We got Consider, Surveil 1, draw a card. And then we also have Reckless Impulse, exile the top 2 cards until the end of your next turn. You may play those cards as well. So really good card draw, and for low mana we can start either flipping or we can start the prowess triggers over, or just spamming loads of creatures. Using the Convoke to burn our opponents out with the Lightning Strike. This deck is super fun. A little bit of protection with Shore Up. You know, we want to keep our creatures on the battlefield with the Monastery and the Third Path, you know, specifically. And obviously the Kenra, if we can keep this on the field, Ward 2, a lot of times they'll be tapping out that 4 mana to kill it. We then protect it with Shore Up, Prowess Trigger. Prowess Trigger's going to go up. It's then going to be a 5/5 Trampler. Maybe we can hit the opponent with a burn spell, and then it's just going to prowess again. You can get some really quick wins if you can get your Khemra Spellbear down, even just as it is, but if it goes to the Gitaxian and it's not dealt with, it really does win the games. Other lands in the base, there's a Surgical Bay, pays 2, draw a card, and there's an Autonomous. But other than that, you could possibly add in maybe some of the tricolour lands if you want that kind of card spell for drawing, where you add the blue and the red, and one of that you could maybe upgrade to them if you like. But the land base here is pretty set. Field of Ruins is a card that it's not in this deck, but I have found quite helpful in some games, especially with the amount of Mirex lands out there that turn, pay 3, turn into a little Phyrexian creature that hits you for the Toxic. So even like in the past deck, Field of Ruins is a card that I would definitely look at in some of your techs for your decks. But yeah, this is Izzet Prowess Convoke. Really good token aggressive tempo strategy, and if these are your colours, or if you just want to play something new, give it a try. Now I said we're going to go to an old favourite, and Mono Red does get some upgrades. This is a 6 rare variation, and the upgrades that you see for this deck are uncommon, which is amazing. Just the 6 rares. Now 3 of these rares are in the lands. You've got Mishra's Foundry as a 2 of a good attacking creature, and then you have a Sokizan that can make 2 creatures as well and keep up the aggressive nature of this deck. But the additions for this deck are obviously Stoke the Flames. I just spoke how good that is. It's amazing. It's 4 damage. Potentially can cost you 2 red with the creatures on the field. And then Invasion of Regatha, which is 3 mana for 4 damage to a target battle or opponent. You can't target any target like the Stoke, but this is so good. 4 damage to the opponent, 1 damage to up to a creature, so you can get rid of a little blocker. If then you can attack it, and I have attacked this one because it turns into a 4/4 Prowess. Non-creature source you control will deal damage to creature battle. It deals that much damage plus 2, which is brilliant because the opponent part of that just makes that really, really good. Chucking in the burn spells like the Stoke, the Lightning Strike, and the Play with Fire is just amazing if this is flipped around. Other cards in the game, we just got some really good of the mono red staples. Kumanu, Monastery Swiftspear, the Phoenix, cards that you will know, but if there's any beginners here, these videos do attract new players. Mono red is the staple, deck of every single format, especially when it comes out. A new set gets released in standard, mono red is going to be there. One of my favourite cards that always has to be dealt with, and people don't like dealing with it, which is Feldon, because it gives you card advantage. Can't block, hasty comes down. When it's dealt damage, exile that many cards. You get to choose one of them until the end of your next turn. You may play that card. So, Reckless Impulse gives us 2 exile to the play to the end of the next turn. And then we have Feldon, so we have ways in red to go through the deck, which is what I like. Not much more, really, you can say about mono red. It's just a very aggressive strategy with so much burn. A little bit different to the token, prowess strategy of the Izzet deck that we just saw. This is more, we do have the Swiftspear, but with the Phoenix, the Feldon, and the Kessig is more on the ground. And Kessig, you sometimes don't really attack with this because every non-creature spell you play does an extra 1 damage. Now, this deck has 24 non-creature spells and 14 creatures. So many non-creatures in this one. This is why it runs 22 land, very low on the land base. Possibly could go 21. I haven't tried it. This is as the deck is. I'm just saying now. But if you feel like even at 22 you're drawing too much, drop one of them, add in another Kessig. That's what I would do personally. But this is the deck that's been getting the results, so they're the ones that I like to share with you. I just add in my little 2 pence worth and say, another Kessig is good. Just drop 1 land, 21 land. You see how low the CMC is, 1.9. I think the deck can cope with it. But play it as is. If it's winning, just leave it as is as well. But yeah, mono red with some absolutely sweet upgrades, and I'm really good that we get an invasion that we can do, even if it doesn't flip. 3 mana, 4 damage, potential 1 to a creature as well is still good enough for the 3 mana. And mono red gonna be around for a while. So there's 3 super budget decks, 11 rares, 8 rares, 6 rares. Let me know what you think of them. People are, like in the previous video I said, like, go and watch that one. They've done really well into platinum with 0 rare with one of those decks, so you'd have to go and have a look at one of them. It was a Phyrexian tribal deck that was really powerful, and people have just let me know in Discord, which is free to go and join if you want to go. Just go and check out all the links below if you want to support me a bit extra. There is Patreon there. Everyone gets to see these deck lists early in Patreon. That's one of the rewards there, so you can get playing them, you know, a lot earlier. But yeah, it's just a great way to support me. I thank you everyone that does that. Thank you everyone that stays and likes the videos. The last video was just done so well, and I just love feeding out these budget decks for everyone, so it gives a chance for people to play more than the one deck. You could potentially have 2, 3, 4 decks if you're just playing something different, doing dailies, you know, anything like that. It gives you more fun on Arena, and basically, you know, that is what it's all about. Thanks for watching today's video. Hope you enjoyed it. Give it a big thumbs up, and I will see you on the next video.